Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. There's a couple points I wanted to address today regarding politics and prepping. I shouldn't say politics because from my perspective, politics are kind of a joke. Everybody knows, most people in the prepping community are enlightened enough to know, or at least most of us, are enlightened enough to know that money talks, bullshit walks. That he who controls the money controls the world. Thus, politics is kind of a, just sort of a front there put for the masses. Really, you don't vote people in, you vote people out. You never really, there's never been one politician who's followed through on their promises or who has severely rocked the boat in any particular way. Many have been shot and whatnot, but I sort of digress. Doug Bass 654 did a video not too long ago regarding, and he said something sort of off the cuff. I think it was in part the focus of the video, but I think it was something that he said really resonated with me, and that was with regards to the process by which a person becomes a prepper. Now, different people enter preparedness through different avenues, but I think one of the processes that the routes that he described was a person becoming aware of the fact that our system is flawed, that our system is corrupt and prone to failure. And with that comes a degree of skepticism about the nature of our system, the nature of the matrix, if you will, and a distrust in government and a distrust in any sort of big organization or corporation, or perhaps even group that conspires against the masses, so to speak. And I agree with this a lot because I can relate to the fact that, me personally, I've had quite the extensive history with the whole truth movement, and I don't really talk about that much on this channel. I don't really go into great detail about those kind of things because I was trying to start a new chapter with this channel in my life. And, I've been on the picket lines, I've protested, I've done a lot of side projects that a lot of people don't know about, and I sort of keep that to myself. In fact, I would say that my awareness of these matters is so profound that there's very few people I can really relate to, even within the truth movement, various quote-unquote truth movements, because I have a tendency to overanalyze things, and my whole motto is, once you think you've got it figured out, you've just stopped thinking. So for me, things like patriotism and all those religion and for me, a lot of that is just modes of social control. I don't really put too much stock in that kind of thing. That's not my motive for prepping. The whole don't tread on me approach, the anarcho-libertarian movement, it's not really something I'm in with. I don't, as much as, if a person wants to worship Ron Paul, that's fine, although I know personally that anybody in politics is anybody who tries to take the system via politics is going to end up in the pockets of whoever put them there. That's just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with it. So that's not to say that I can't learn from a lot of people who practice those things. There's people on YouTube who I'm subscribed to, who the Canadian Prepper is subscribed to, not to refer to myself in the third person, but just to that one particular channel. There's people I'm subscribed to that are the antithesis of me ideologically, but who I can still learn a lot from. Now, what the point I kind of wanted to make with all this is the preppers should beware. Because YouTube, Facebook, all these mediums of communication that have been put there for us to communicate on, a lot of people assume that, you know, it should just be free. They don't question why it's free. They don't question why you're able to upload so much data for free. And there is a cost. And I'm not really going to get into too deep into the conspiratorial aspects of this, because that tends to push a lot of people away, and I'm not trying to push a lot of people away. And some people might say, well, if they're too ignorant that they're not willing to listen, then, you know, they're not worth it anyways. But I'm really trying to be sympathetic to people's ignorance in approaching this issue cautiously. So what I will say is that YouTube, Google, which is, YouTube is owned by Google, I can almost say with 100% certainty that the most popular means of communication amongst the masses are put there by, and they are propped up by governments, by the powers that be, if you will, in order to mine us, not only for information, not only data mining, but also to smoke us out. And so that's why I'm very wary with what I say on here and relate to my actual identity, because the time's going to come when all this stuff is going to be, like all of this stuff that we talk about and say on here, most people don't realize this, but there's going to come a time when all of this is synthesized with the credit bureaus, and you know, you're going to have a profile that is going to be there. There's going to be this track record that's collected of, you know, if you have websites, if you have blogs, all that stuff, all that information is being stored and kept on file. It doesn't disappear when you delete it from your computer, or when you deactivate your Facebook account or whatever. It doesn't work that way. All that information is retained in servers. And a lot of this, you know, empowering us to communicate with each other, many totalitarian regimes in the past have encouraged people to be outspoken. They've encouraged people to you know, voice their opinions openly and freely, only to ultimately have those things rubbed out, to rub out those dissidents at some point. Whether it was Stalinist Russia or Nazi Germany, they encouraged people to be outspoken in their beliefs so that they could find out who was who. And you see this a lot with the show Doomsday Preppers. A lot of these people are running into, and some of them rightly so, but some of them it's a little unjustified, are running into legal problems, financial problems. You know, they're being singled out. And so I can only wonder sometimes if, well, a couple things. If we are being, I know we're being studied, how much information we should let on about what our actual beliefs are. Nobody cares if the government doesn't care if you have preps. You know, anybody who wastes their time, like, to think that somebody is going to come and steal your preps because you show them on YouTube, like to think that somebody's making a map of all these potential places and, you know, investing all that time into who they're going to raid and all this stuff, and not investing it in, you know, stockpiling their own stuff, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, and certainly the government doesn't care two shits about your 2-year food storage or, your 1960s grade weaponry. The government doesn't care about that shit. What I would be concerned about is, and I don't even think they care about the prepper per se, they care about certain preppers. If you're touting the mainstream jingles and you're a prepper, you're probably okay. If you're one of the people who landed into prepping because you realized that the system was fucked and that you needed to be prepared for its inevitable collapse because you realized that you cannot rely on the mainstream media to give you accurate information of how that degradation is going to progress, then you become a prepper. The natural progression is truther, prepper. Some people start on the level of preparedness and they become more advanced in their ideas of how the system actually works. They become their views become more sophisticated over time and more refined. And some people, like myself, spend 10 years studying, researching, analyzing the system, and only to realize that in the spirit of the art of war that you got to keep your enemies closer than your friends, and that you're not going to be able to change the system as it is right now. The system has to destroy itself. Once you realize that, then you become a prepper, and that's what happened to me. Is I realized that the way that our global system is set up, it's destined for failure or excessive rule of law. As such, I need to prepare to be self-sufficient for when that happens. And that's why I'm very apprehensive about associating my political views about this channel. I already know that the eye in the sky, they know my name, they know, and that's not being paranoid, that's just from my perspective, from my level of understanding this game, that's just common sense. You can mask yourself with an alias and all this stuff. They got voice recognition, they got, IP addresses, they could fucking, you could put any alias you want and try to disguise it any way you want. Even if you're using like a public access computer or something like that, there's ways that they can figure out who's who and who's saying what. So I don't kid myself to think I'm actually hiding. What I would like to do now is reach a broader audience, which you can't reach when you start getting into I don't like saying extremist because that's a very tainted word, but unique perspectives. The more unique your perspective is in the truth, quote unquote truth movement, the less and less support you have. And I'm trying to reach a broader audience with the preparedness thing, because I realize that you can't preach to people your views on ideology and politics. It doesn't work. If they're ready to hear it, they'll come and find you. You can't go and find others. You might be able to plant some seeds of inspiration here and there, but you can't make anybody think or feel a damn thing that they don't want to feel and think. And I've learned that. It's taken me a while. I used to think that I could persuade people, and with just by bombarding people with information, I would somehow be able to change their perspectives. But in a lot of ways, that can have the opposite effect. It can just push people away. So I've chosen not to take that approach anymore and focus more on matters of practicality. So be wary about what you say on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all these things. And I'm sure a lot of people are aware of this, but not many people from what I've seen actually practice it. Especially the people who come on these mediums and talk as if, there's some kind of big shot that is somehow, outside the society and how they're more privy or somehow immune to that aspect of the system, that they're not being watched in their little virtual cubicle like everybody else. Don't kid yourself, is what I'm saying. All these little toys and this entertainment we've been given, just like the Huxley and Brave New World idea. You don't control people through brute force like the Iron Fist of 1984 in that Orwellian world. What we have here is a Brave New World where we are amusing ourselves to death. So they provide us with all these little toys and trinkets and bells and whistles and things to do, and so we're never bored and we're constantly occupied, and we delude ourselves into thinking that we're exercising our freedom. But the more and more we talk on YouTube, the deeper and deeper our hole gets dug, because the more information we communicate, the more they know about us. So the more it's sort of a catch-22, because on the one hand you're coordinating and you're networking with people, but on the other hand it's all being monitored. So it's you win some, you lose some. So you got to weigh the pros and cons. Is it better that they know more and more about me, or is it better that I don't get to know anybody and I'm not able to use the technology to network with people? It's a hard situation to address. So I really don't know what the solution is per se. I think most of us are well into the hole already. We've already sort of shot ourselves in the foot in that respect. Everybody who puts out that bug out bag video, who can't resist the urge to do so, I'm pretty sure they're probably pegged. Oh, look at this one. He's preparing for something. And they have. I listened to Alan Watt a bit, and he talks a bit about, and don't bring up your criticisms of Alan Watt. I've heard it all. I've looked into all of it. I don't need to hear. I'm not into the whole InfoWars Alex Jones thing anymore. I'm well past that. But he does talk about how they have virtual use, how they have virtual renditions of all our personalities so that they can predict. Because we need to remember that the people in control, they're just like preppers. They want to control every possible variable, every possible contingency in the equation. And so in order for them to do that, they're going to go to any means possible, any lengths possible, in order to be able to calculate with absolute precision what each and every one of us potential threats to them might do next. And utilizing technology by putting everything we say on here into this database, into this virtual rendition of us, they can pretty much predict. And this is including the GPS in your phone, all the data. They know what you're going to do next, what you're going to buy next, where you're going to go next, who you're probably going to end up with, the dating sites. They know how to make suggestions. They know what videos to put in the sidebar, to personalize. I can't remember what they call it, but it's like the personalized bubble or something like that, where now on all these websites, on YouTube and Facebook, they're moving towards a system where you only see what they want you to see in your newsfeed. Even though you're subscribed to certain people, you won't see all the videos from certain people. YouTube is still not like that, but there are other mediums of communication that are like that. So, speak softly, carry a big stick. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I think, doing what we're doing is doing what we're doing. whether we're just digging ourselves a deeper hole, I think it depends on the extent that you go to. You know, mixing prepping with the truthing stuff, the truther stuff, you know, that's great if a person wants to try to do that. Personally, I think that's dangerous territory. I think that is the person they're targeting with all these, you know, school shootings and perhaps false flag, you know, whatever. I don't really want to get deep into the conspiracy stuff, because right when you start talking about that, people start rolling their eyes. And you could say, oh yeah, well, those people don't like to think much, and that may well be the case, but nonetheless, you know, you're trying to expand your sphere of influence, not contract it. So all I can say is just keep thinking, you know. Just because you're looking at other perspectives, or it's not anti-American, it's not communistic to entertain other views. I can't remember which philosopher said it, but they said the mark of an intelligent mind is somebody who can entertain a thought without accepting it. So consider that you don't have to accept something as fact. You can play with the idea. That is the essence of thought. That's what distinguishes intellectuals from, you know, just kind of brown shirt idiots, you know. So that's pretty much what I got for today. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people have come to the same conclusions with prepping due to their traversing the truther circuit. Some people do a little bit of both, and some people perhaps hopefully are having their, you know, sort of their primitive fears of government, which is good, but to broaden that view a bit, to realize it's not just government, you know, that government in itself, you know, is not entirely the problem. It's a far more complex matter than that. And as I've said before, it comes down to the fact that wealthy control freaks want to retain their power, and preppers are, you know, the 5% want to retain their power through control, and the preppers are kind of like the people on the other end of the spectrum who are at the bottom, and some of them want to stop them, but lots of us just want to brace ourselves for the coming storm of events. So let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you like the video, and by all means share. Canadian Prepper out.